Welcome to the 14th in a series of shows addressing Brookline as an age-friendly community. In 2012, the World Health Organization established Brookline as its first community in New England to be designated an age-friendly city. This was a result of a number of things. It was a result of the board. It was a result of the residents in town, volunteer agencies that provide leadership, and the town departments that contributed. One of the town departments that contributed was the health department, very early. And today we're going to interview the new head of the health department. Today, rather than being in a studio, we're located at the Senior Center of Brookline. And we have a number of people in the audience that will be able to ask questions following Dr. Jett and my discussion. That was a spoiler. So it'll be a little bit different. The point is that the health department, the mission of the health department, is basically preserve, protect, and promote the physical, mental, and environmental health of the residents and the people of Brookline. Very often the department itself will collaborate with other departments and will also collaborate with other organizations to deal with inequalities in health and to deal and respond to challenges in town. In April, Brookline was very luckily acquired a new Commissioner of Health, Dr. Swannie Jett. Dr. Jett came from Florida, Seminole County, where he was the health officer, Surgeon General of the Seminole County Health Department. Prior to that, he was the health officer of Bullitt County in Kentucky. Dr. Jett achieved his doctorate at the University of Kentucky in public health with an emphasis on preventive medicine. His studies focused on biosystems engineering and agricultural statistics. Dr. Jett served from 2006 to 2008 in Iraqi Operation Freedom and received the Bronze Star Medal. He's currently a major in the Air National Guard of Rhode Island, and he was a past president of the National Association of County and City Hospital Officials, Health Officials, excuse me. Dr. Jett, welcome.
Thank you, I'm glad to be here today.
So today we're in the Senior Center. I know we always focus on seniors, but because we're here, I think I'd like to start out with an idea of how the health department deals with and works with seniors. What are the seniors' needs and what are the things that you provide?
Well, I'm sure we had a lot of people in the audience that would tell me their needs specifically. But I would say one of the things that we can provide and we do is our eBuddies program. And it's really focused in on making sure that seniors are ready for any type of natural disaster or man-made disaster that occurs. And so that program really is a relationship built within the building between seniors. But they can also have a buddy outside the senior center that actually makes sure that they had a proper food, proper clothing prepared, and non-perishable items. They have some type of plan, a family preparedness plan,
right,
written. But also make sure they know where their proper documents are. Do they have access to their pills, and can they make sure they have it in a readily locatable place?
Right.
One of the things that the town did, and I'm gracious that they did a survey. And a lot of seniors took the survey. And what we found is that only 29% of the people were prepared for an emergency.
Right. Not surprised. Not surprised.
So, but for me, that's alarming because we have seen the issues that have happened in nursing homes and senior living in Florida,
right,
which is always hit with a hurricane. And
right,
people should be prepared. At least have 2 weeks worth of supply of food. And then make sure they have a place to evacuate to if they need to. Make sure they have contact numbers. Right. And so those are things that the health department provides to citizens that take advantage of it.
So is this coordinated? This is a specific
So this
program?
is coordinated. This is the eBuddies program. So it is coordinated. We received a lot of funding from Homeland Security for it. Well, I wouldn't say a lot of funding, but we do receive some funding for it.
Some funding.
You know, it's one of the programs we need more participants. And it's a collaboration with the police department,
Right.
which is part of our emergency management team.
So the is this that medical reserve corps? Is that
So this
related
is
to that?
related to Medical Reserve Corps, but it's up under our emergency management program that we have at the health department.
Okay, so this is a separate. This is a program that coordinates, sort of pulls those pieces.
Right. So MRC is a different program. That's volunteers that are credentialed that come and help in case of emergency. Where our CERT team is more of a first responder type that actually can back up first responders. And they go through a 10-week program. So that's even more comprehensive of what the health department, but other agencies such as fire, police, we actually collaborate and provide those services to the community.
Okay, so then when you say volunteers, is that also can the seniors participate?
Yes, they can. Yes, they can. So one of the ways they can participate is go online, www.brooklinemrc.org, and you can find all the information. You also, when you go to the website, you can develop a preparedness plan. So it has a family preparedness planner on there. You can click on that. So one of the things I always advise people to do is, if you don't have a will, develop a will.
Right.
Even myself, I'm going back and looking at a will. So you're never too young or too old to have a will.
Well, certainly once you have children, you start thinking about that.
Yes.
And then as the children grow, you think about it. And,
Yes.
So you're too young, but in any case.
I don't know. I have some grown children.
Yeah, it matters, right? I mean, all of us, it's the same thing. We need, we need a will, we need documents, we need, we have health issues.
Do you have a pill box?
Right, right.
Because you don't want to go scramble for all your prescriptions.
Right.
So you might want to have some set aside and updated as you go. So in case of emergency, that's the first thing you grab.
Right.
So
is this the kind of thing the EP Buddy would be doing?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so they would help an individual. Do they do a follow-on thing? I mean, they actually contact?
The buddy system, they follow, they contact, so depending on who the buddy is.
Right.
So there will always be follow-up and constant contact. The main goal is to build a relationship.
So what types of emergency? We're in Brookline, right?
Right.
And we don't have we have hurricanes. I take that back. We had Sandy, certainly got close.
Yeah. Yes.
And some others have, and we get nor'easters that they have the same wind, and they have a lot of rain and a lot of snow. And but so we certainly have emergencies.
That's
but what kind of emergencies are we really conscious of?
Well, the first one that comes to mind as I look outside and it's 40 degrees and dropping is weather.
Right.
So inclement weather, especially since we had such a warm fall season, you can expect snowstorms.
Yeah, this hit suddenly. Yeah.
All of a sudden. And so you really think about loss of power.
Okay.
So now, for agencies or buildings that don't have power, you think about emergency generators.
Right.
Okay. Now we're getting into carbon monoxide, poisoning, and things like that could occur.
Right.
So that's one of the first emergencies. There's always a possibility of a flood. We have torturous rains recently. So flooding, hurricane, a fire. Now, we don't have enough woods around, but we got a lot of trees.
Right. Right.
But you could have a major fire as an incident. And then an emergency could be evacuation of a building because you had a mass shooter.
Right.
So
I think we're really conscious. I'm glad you brought that up because it's something we're all conscious at this moment of.
Right.
And I think we're all aware of it. What are the kinds of things we have to do and be concerned about when it comes to active shooting?
So, first of all, you have to look at your building and making sure that you're prepared in terms of security. Everybody needs to be trained on active shooter and how to deal with the scenario. One of the interesting things is as this society continue to grow, poverty level continues to increase, mental health continues to be a problem in the community, along with hate groups.
Right.
What you're starting to see is more and more mass shootings. 270 to 310 million people own a gun. So that's almost a 1-to-1 ratio. So, when we talk about is mental health the sole problem, well, the last time I checked, there isn't a brain running around picking up a gun and shooting somebody.
Right.
Okay? It's people. And everybody that is committing these crimes are not necessarily have a mental health issue.
Right.
So somehow when you look at countries that control guns, then that's one element.
Right.
Really getting into police checks, because that's another, background checks. If a person has a mental health issue, that should be a red flag.
Right.
Domestic violence should be a flag. And then when we go into how we police the communities,
Right.
Because that's another issue that's happened with gun violence against African American men.
Right.
So that's been predominantly in the news. And how do we deal with that?
Right.
So it goes to training the police, but
Right.
not only. One of the biggest issues when we talk about gun violence and why it's continuing to be perpetrated. So, there's studies that actually look at when there's domestic violence in a home and the child grows up and sees domestic violence,
Right.
they're more likely to perpetrate that later on in life. Well, if a child sees their brother or their mother killed, or they see violence in the community, they become desensitized to human life and the violence over time.
So that's interesting. And this is just my personal observation.
Right.
Of the last few active shooters, and a number of them that I read, they go into all sorts of backgrounds and things, but one of the things they always mention is parents, relatives, and each case that I've seen, there is violence in the house,
Right.
and in the parents and beforehand. Right. And I've always wondered why nobody seems to point that out. The reason may be ideological, the reason may be mental, the reason may be hate, actual anger between two people. But when you look back, the ones who do these things also have this background of violence. So how do we stop this cycle? I mean, it's like,
so we
or
have
slow it down.
Yeah, so there's a test people can take called ACEs. It's given by a mental health counselor, and ACEs is looking at childhood experiences. But when we begin to really look, how does impact elders? So as we
Yes.
age more and more in life, we are less capable of handling these type of situations. And so, the building has to be prepared, first of all,
Right.
for active shooter. Everybody has to be able to respond if they can.
Right.
But also, you have to be able to identify if somebody has an issue. Or if you notice somebody is spitting hate into the community, then that person might need to be on a watch list. Because we're having a lot of crime happening, dealing with, some of it is mental health.
Right.
Some of it is related to, domestic terrorism.
Right.
And then we won't account for the other terrorists. So we really have to begin to educate the community. We have to begin to study the data. We have to do more research on the mortality and how it impacts, lifespan. Because right now, for gun violence, we don't do any type of research.
Right.
And then how that impacting the relatives that's left. And is it continue to be perpetrated? So the intervention, us that live longer, maybe we can help.
Right.
Maybe we can provide some of that grief counseling. See, one of my ideas is, not only in senior living homes, but in nursing homes, we have a lot of capable adults that have a lot of different variety of expertise.
Right.
So if they're part of a crisis intervention team, they have a background in social work, they can actually aid the health department or police and begin to help reshape some of these communities.
And I think you'll find that it's interesting in this area. There's a number of different groups and housing for seniors, where there's a lot of things that go on.
Right.
Emergency preparedness, and people are trained, and there's there's training, there's both training and there's also psychological discussions and meetings, informal and formal,
right,
in the senior areas. We also have churches and synagogues and those kinds of institutions. If you see people, the question I always have is if you see someone constantly parked outside of an institution, what does that mean and what do you do?
Right. Most time I'm seeing it in the community, and that's why we all have to be prepared. They're attacking some of the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
You don't see some of these terroristic people going in and going after the military.
No, right.
So,
wow, way back.
Yeah, way back. So it's more focused in on the elder population or young people that don't have the opportunity to defend. And I'm not against people owning guns, because you need to, to me, if you have an opportunity to gain a license, become trained.
Yeah, that's
so that's
right.
The other aspect.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole set of questions that I have before. Oh, you guys, I think they're ready for us to go to so I can't ask them. We're going to let the audience ask the questions. Okay.
Dr. Jett, you mentioned the EP Buddy program. Is this something that people self-identify? In other words, they contact the health department and say, I'm interested in participating? Is this how you join?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Are there provisions in that? I know some people are very worried about privacy, that if they identify themselves perhaps as a person in need, they might have a little sensitivity to this. So does the health department have anything beyond assigning them a buddy?
No, it's just pretty much just assign a buddy and just to the system in need. So if there was an emergency in terms of evacuation, actually the police, the emergency management team would assist with that, but it's not to gather any more information than that.
So they don't have to say, I'm blind or I have trouble hearing, it's just, I would like to have someone help me prepare some documents.
Yes. And if there are some supplies that you need, it would help you with supplies as well.
Great.
So, yes.
And is this also what one would do if you want to volunteer to be an EP buddy?
That's correct. It's the same process.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Dr. Jett. My name is Martha Farlow, and I live in Brookline and was a teacher for many years. And every year we did fire drills. We did one at the beginning, one at the end of the year, and often in the middle in the winter. Some children are very afraid of that routine, but it becomes routine. And I'm wondering if you would have suggestions for the school department as to what to do in evacuating the building should there be an active shooter identified. Would that be named as the reason for the evacuation? Usually when the kids see fire engines sitting outside, they know it's going to be a fire drill.
That is correct.
But what would you do about training school personnel for an active shooter?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, I think I would need to talk to the police department to see, their process to deal with an active shooter. I know they probably need some basic training for the teachers first, so they would be, they would know how to respond and how to keep kids safe. Usually they always have evacuation plan of where to move kids to.
Yes.
And they tell them to lock the door, which is essential. Don't try to be the hero and try to stop the active shooter, and to remain calm and alert somebody. So I know if they follow those processes, that will help. But if they want some specific training, they would need to go to the police department to really talk about active shooting.
Okay. I've been retired for a while, so I honestly don't know whether the teachers have been cued at all about what to do in the need for an evacuation for any reason other than fire drill.
And I would definitely bring it up to the school officials and also talk to the police department, because that's something that we definitely need to be prepared for. I don't think we are immune to what's going on outside the world. So.
Thank you.
How does can I? Yes, I can ask questions. The follow-up question.
Yes.
How do the coordination, how does the health department get involved with the police and fire? I've prepared evacuation plans, and when we did it, it was difficult because each area is different.
That's correct.
So
We have an emergency management team, and it includes the police, the fire, the health department, and a few other agencies.
okay,
And so each one of us agencies has to go through incident command structure, which actually tells us who in charge, what part of the preparedness plan we have. So the health department has ESF 8, which is related to health.
okay,
So we plan for any kind of emergencies within that. And then, we develop a COOP plan under that to deal with emergencies. Plus, we also have NIMS, which is the National Incident Management System. Everybody's trained. So it helps with the coordination of a major incident, such as you saw what happened in Texas recently.
right,
So each agency, depending on the natural disaster, that person might take the lead. If it's an active shooter, it'll be the police.
right,
If it's something related to health, like Ebola, it'll be the health.
okay.
So,
Thank you.
What should one do if you become aware of an emergency that has not been announced by the town? And also, along with that, when the town announces an emergency, is it only through landlines, or are they also doing it through cell phones?
but I think the first thing would be, what is the emergency? What should you do?
Yeah.
That would determine what type of emergency it is. Now, if it's an emergency that you notice and the town doesn't notice.
Right. That's what the first part of the question was about.
If it's a fire, call the fire department.
Yeah, there's a 911.
911 works.
Yeah, I am in a building. I'm in a building that has condo filled with people.
Right.
And they keep asking, how do you contact? And I said, there's a reason for 911.
Yeah, 911
Anybody
works.
else you call is going to have to call 911.
Right.
So I think the first thing you do in any emergency, as an individual, this is me learning how to take care of myself, anything you do, you call 911, even if it's something that well, the police are going to handle this, the fire is going to handle this. You call 911 so a dispatcher has it, and so that it gets in the hands of the people who are coordinating, which is not the health department, obviously. It's
No.
the police.
No.
It is the police.
Yeah, not unless it's something pertaining to health.
Okay.
So,
And how does the town let people know? Is
So-
it through,
So that's a good question. So if you want to be alerted of anything, the town has a website on front page's website. You can sign up for alerts. So any type of emergency, that alert will come to your phone. If a child's been kidnapped, you should receive an alert on the phone.
that I know comes through the cell phones too.
Right, that's
Because
correct.
the Amber Alerts we've gotten.
That's correct.
And whether we get through the cell phones, because there are many people today, including us, who don't have landlines anymore.
That's correct.
Right.
So that's why I'm wondering how the town used to do like a rotocall for the hurricane, for when we would have the snowstorms coming in. They would let us know, but it was always through landlines
Right.
or medical,
Yeah. So now we've transitioned more to cell phones.
So it is cell phones, okay.
So that's the predominant. If people have landlines, I'm sure the alerts still work, but I can verify.
Yeah, there's certainly, people keep asking those questions because there's so many different methods of communicating. So your cable's going to have announcements. Your
That's true.
landlines are going to have announcements. Some things that people call landlines are really cable, right? It's certainly not hardwired. It's well, it may be, but it's so it's a really good question, and there's too many answers to it. But I hope we're moving more and more towards one answer, where it'll come out through your cell, or through, if you don't have one, you can notify them, and you'll get called in another way.
My name is Betty Allen. I live at Brookline. I just wanted to say that in response to the cell phone question, we receive on our cell phones flooding warnings and that kind of thing already. And if there's something, an emergency, perhaps, there are cell phone warnings. all of our phones went on one night when there was a flood emergency. And also in response to the school thing, I don't know about if the building has to be evacuated, but I know schools have programs in place for if a shooter is in the building. The classroom doors are being locked nowadays so that nobody can come in or out. If there's a window in the door, that window is blocked. And teachers are told to do things like bring children into the storage room or something off of the classroom so that even if somebody is able to look in, they wouldn't see children. So perhaps they would walk past that door. So I think school departments have plans now.
I'm going to yell, so I won't need the microphone. I'd just like to remind people that during the marathon bombing, the cell phone towers were shut down.
Yeah.
So it can't be an exclusive way to notify people. Yes, because they didn't know the bombs weren't being set off by phones. So runners, I had runners staying with me who could only use my landline to communicate with their family members.
Right.
So I think we all need to remember it's got to be multiple sources.
Right, so if there's power, I guess you
Yes.
could see it on television because they do
Yes.
the emergency
Yes.
alert system.
Yes.
I did want to say that, and this is not because Big is here filming or anything else, but cable is really a key way of communicating, one way or another. The information will come over cable, and if you happen to have a cable phone or a phone that's connected to your cable, that is not considered a cell phone and will not be an issue. So cable is an important aspect of it. But you're right. I mean, we all know, we're all aware of the fact that they're progressing, but there's a lot of things that have to be done as far as communication to individuals. There's just too many methods.
Hi, I'm Roberta Winitzer. I'm actually the chair of the Council on Aging, and it occurs to me that there are probably a number of people in the town of Brookline who, for one reason or another, are infirm, are unable to move quickly in an emergency. Is there a protocol established by the town? Is there something in place now so that the emergency teams know how to be in touch with someone or to go and help someone who may or may not be able to move from his or her apartment?
So one of the things a person can do is sign up. We do have special needs site. So if you look to www.brooklinemrc.org, and you could, actually call the health department and talk to Cheryl Snyder or talk to Casey Hatchett. Those two people, they have a list of people that sign up for special needs that need some extra assistance during an emergency. So that's something that a person, can do in preparation.
So are we publicizing in some way? Is the town telling people that if they know someone or if they have a family member who might need extra help, is there some list someplace for that?
So you can go to our website and go to MRC, our emergency preparedness website. That's one place. But also, if you have pets, so we did have an event for pet preparedness. It's something that I didn't mention. But, because a lot of people have pets as well.
Right.
And so that's one way. But yeah, there is a website. You can go to our website and it provides some more information to you.
Yes, Brookline.
So I guess I guess my bottom line is there are people who may not have thought what to do in an emergency.
Right.
People who aren't well or who can't suddenly get up and move or get out of their apartment or get out of their house. Are we alerting people that they need to do that they have some responsibility?
Now, I think, so all of our programs, especially MRC to CERT and EP Buddies, we have put out a lot of information on our website. We've, alerted where seniors live. But we also, we could always do more. So if you think, we need to capture more of a broader audience or we need to distribute better and you have some suggestions, we always definitely open to it.
Thanks. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome to Brookline.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Lynn, and returning to the active shooter discussion, is there any way of knowing how many guns there are in Brookline?
That's a good question. Does that mean legal or illegal?
Let's start with legal.
Yeah, I mean, so it all depends on the tracking mechanism. Because a lot of times people do register guns if they have a concealed weapons license. I'm not sure about all the policies in terms of how do you acquire a gun. But in other states, if they have gun shows or things like that, or you can get it to a pawn shop, a gun show is not necessarily tracked, but a pawn shop, is, because you have to do a background check, et cetera, et cetera. So is there a real way for us to know? Probably not at this time.
I think in this state, and I don't know if it's true in other states, I think they only register as a gun owner, and they don't register guns. So therefore, if you have 1,000 gun owners, you can have 10,000 guns. So it gets very difficult, I think. Very difficult.
Yeah.
But if you go back to the approximation I made earlier, with 270 million to 310 million owning guns, you look into a 1-to-1 ratio. So
310 million Americans?
Correct.
That's almost everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
But it also means I don't have a gun, so somebody's got a lot
A
of
lot of
guns.
guns.
somebody
Well,
has a lot
that's
of
it,
guns.
yeah.
Yes.
No, I think the head of the police departments in the communities have a role in certifying whether, or determining whether a person can own a gun. Do you know that, Matt? Because I'd heard that our chief is very conservative about issuing gun permits. So makes me feel better. But I also read that Massachusetts has among the most strict gun control laws and has the lowest, I guess you say, assault weapon type of incidents in the country.
So, that's a good question you bring up. So you can have the strictest gun laws, because Chicago has one of the strictest
Do
gun
they?
laws in the country.
Wow. And the highest.
So, and homicides,
Yeah.
especially in African American communities, is very high.
Yeah.
All right, so, I was born and raised in Inglewood. It brings to an issue that you have a multi-layered problem because communities have been divested, especially in impoverished neighborhoods. And a lot of people they have high rates of unemployment. So, I say sometimes when you look at some of our communities, especially in urban cities, we have created some of the best criminals in the country just through poverty, just through not having affordable housing, and then not having mental health available to people. So we have a multi-layered issue dealing in some of these communities. Now, that has nothing to do with the mass shootings. So when we hit our 240th day this year, we already had 244 mass shootings at that time, and that was in August. So, we talk about one-on-one crime in Chicago, okay? But when we talk about a mass shooting, somebody is killing 2 or more people, okay? And for no reason. It's not drug-related, it's just because.
Seems like it's a lot of anger.
A lot of anger, a lot of ways to deal with stress. So when we avoid tackling some of the social issues in the community, then, we stop avoiding that. We might reduce some of the violence. We start providing more opportunities for people in communities. You might stop, you might reduce the violence. We begin to look at mental health. You might reduce violence. You begin to look at gun control and how people assess guns and be honest about it and realistic, you might reduce gun violence. So there's a lot of different ideologies and methods. We really probably need to sit down as a country and talk about it and have a holistic approach instead of kicking the can down the road.
So let me ask you, do you consider it a public health issue, guns and gun violence?
Well, that's a good question. So the health department across the nation deal with mortality, right? If somebody's dying, shouldn't the health department treat it just like any other contagious disease?
I think so. I mean,
Right. And it's not
Exactly.
only affecting the person, the victim, but it's affecting the family, it's affecting the neighborhood, and people that actually deal with it and they have childhood experiences from it, it's constantly being perpetrated.
Right.
So it's at some point we have to have prevention to step in and say, we need to stop what's going on. We need to really begin to take a stand. I don't want to lose a loved one.
Right.
I have lost loved ones to it. I lost people at water gun violence. And I don't even, and I'm not even touching suicides. Okay?
Right.
So, and we know in the male population, they commit more suicides with weapons than anything else.
And to me, that health, any of these health issues, are a community issue.
That's correct.
And it's people working with each other, working with the health department, working with the various departments, and working and helping each other, and especially in seniors. I know in my building and places I've seen, one senior helps another senior, is aware of them, and when we have a fire call, they check on them immediately. And it's the community, and I would hope that that's something that we pick up on.
Yeah, we need to. For any contagious disease, we put a lot of money into it. Because why? We're trying to stop people from dying. Think about how much money we put towards Ebola or Zika, right?
Right.
How many people are we talking about dying from gun violence each year? How much money are we investing into stopping them? CDC right now cannot even do research on this. And why is that? So that's the question we need to begin to ask.
My name is Frances Tucker. I am a senior citizen. I'm also a criminal defense attorney, so I'm still plugging away. And I have a personal interest in a lot of these related questions. But the hot issue across the country, and very hot in Massachusetts, is, of course, the opiate issue. And this should be, I figure, a prime concern to the health department. It's a big issue in the senior community because many of us have health problems that involve chronic pain. I have arthritis, I've had joint replacement surgery, and it was a tough decision to go off of pain medication.
Right.
It seems like an issue that our town health department needs to deal with, not just, which is the terrible problem, of the abuse and addiction to opiates, but not having the needle go away to the other end that deprives seniors of they're very worried about access to pain-killing medication. And I'm wondering if the health department has any plans afoot for looking at the whole picture on the opiate drug issue at this time.
So the first thing, I don't know of any issue where people are being denied or
They're worried
there's
about
any
it.
policy
Yeah.
that'll reduce seniors from having the ability to have opioids.
Well, our doctors are becoming reluctant to prescribe it. And of course, that's not something the health department can control, but it's definitely an issue.
So, first and foremost, because of the opioid abuse that has happened in our population, doctors should be very cautious on prescribing. Because I do know there have been doctors abused that, just as doctors abuse Medicaid and Medicare, and some of them have went to prison for it. But they also have to make sure they have a balance, from my perspective. Because if somebody needs, medication, to take care of injury or whatever health effect they might have, that's essential. If I hear something in Brookline, we definitely can begin to address that. But I haven't heard anything as of such. But I do know that the opioid overdoses, are starting to increase and uptick.
Has there been incidences in Brookline of need to use Narcan by the police department?
So there have been instances. So between 2011 and 2016, we had 9 overdoses total in a 5-year period. As of today, we're right around 4 or 5 overdoses in 1 year.
Oh.
So we have seen an uptick. We have about 26 overdoses total. Most of it is dealing with not prescription drugs as you're concerned about, but it's mainly dealing with fentanyl and heroin, with a combination of. So, you know, we have a watchful eye. We're starting to think about what interventions we need to do.
I'm wondering if the health department is getting involved in any educational things in the schools or anything that would be appropriate for the health department to do.
So we heavily involved in the schools through Mary Minot and a few other people. We have a substance abuse program that we actually tailor to the school system. And so yeah, it's something that we heavily invested in, especially as we move toward, you know, legalizing retail marijuana as well. So we have a watchful eye.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody. This was an unusual program. I hope everybody's enjoyed our senior center location. Remember that the show will air on the 22nd, so that's the day you're looking at me. And it's also available later on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter accounts for Brookline Can, and on the website for Brookline Can. And I want to thank you very much, Dr. Jett, and I hope you'll come back again someday.
I will definitely. Any hot topics that arrive, let me know.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.